How are you all going? You're back with Jono for another quick math lesson. Today we're going to look at how to solve quadratic equations. Really, these aren't too difficult. The major skill is the actual factorizing of these. So if you're not on top of any of those, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. In order to solve these, really the only skill that you need to know is anything multiplied by 0 equals 0. That one trick is really going to help us out, and it makes these steps really cruisy. So the first one we're going to do is look at a normal monic quadratic. So the first step we've always got to do is make sure that the right hand side is equal to 0. So for this one, I'm going to move that plus 26 over to the side with my x's. So if I'm minus 26 on both sides, I'm going to be left with x squared minus 11x minus 26 is equal to 0. Now that left hand side looks like a quadratic. So I'm going to be looking for two numbers that plus together to give negative 11 and multiply together to give negative 26. If you can see that this is negative 13 and positive 2, negative 13 and 2, you can jump to that last step straight away. This means that x minus 13, x plus 2 is equal to 0. So here's where our 0 trick works. Because we've got two brackets, what we're really saying is that this bracket multiplied by this bracket equals 0. The only way to get 0 as an answer is if one of these equals 0, or both. So if I turn this whole first bracket into 0, that'll say 0 times x minus 2 equals 0. Pretty cruisy. So if I'm just looking at that first bracket, something minus 13 has to equal 0. So that means that the answer is x is equal to 13. So it doesn't just have to be that first bracket. That second side there where it's x plus 2, I've got to find something that makes x plus 2 equal to 0. Minus 2 plus 2 is 0, so the answer there is minus 2. So the big tip here is that whatever the opposite of the number is, if you throw that in as your answer, it's going to equal 0 every single time. So for their x minus 13, the answer is x plus 13. X plus 2 is in the bracket, you just have to write x minus 2. That's all we've got to do. So some of these can look a little bit harder when there's extra kind of stuff in the brackets, but the major step still applies. As long as you have the opposite of the number as your answer, you're going to be fine. So in this example here, we're going to complete the square. So I'm going to minus 17 to both sides in order to have that 0 on the opposite side. So here I've got x squared plus 8x minus 17 is equal to 0. There's no number that multiplies to 17 and pluses together to give 8, so I've got to complete the square. That means halving that middle term and squaring it and add it and subtract it straight away. So this becomes x squared plus 8x plus 16, then minus 16 minus 17 is equal to 0. That whole first bit is a perfect square, so I can write that down as x plus 4 squared, and then I'm going to collect those last two terms, which is equal to negative 33. Again, this is all equal to 0. Now, because I've got two squares and there's a minus in between them, I can do the difference of two squares. That turns this into x plus 4 plus the square root of 33, and then x plus 4 minus the square root of 33. And again, this is still all equal to 0. If you're not super crash hot on that step, please go have a look at my completing the square video. It really goes into detail that explains what we're doing. So here we've got to make this and this both equal to 0. So what we've got to do here is use x is equal to the opposite of the whole number. All right, we've got x plus 4, so we're definitely dealing with minus 4 in both of these. And then because we've got plus root 33 and minus root 33, all we've got to write down is plus and minus root 33. This is our full answer. So even though this looks a little bit harder than those first ones, we're always going to have a number plus or minus the root. So it becomes a little bit easier. So anytime you are completing the square, all you've got to do is the opposite of the first number, or the opposite of what's your perfect square, plus or minus the surd that you're left with. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you later. Just a quick reminder, there are some free worksheets linked in the description below, as well as the notes from this video. If you've got a second, please like, comment, and subscribe to Quick Math for more content every day. Thanks so much. Have a good one.